Hello, I'm Enzo, and how hard is it to beat Borderlands 2 as a scavenger? Alright, I've already used that one, so let's try True Vault Hunter mode as a scavenger. Yes, this was a run I did a while back. Besides being a very fun and interesting run, the video did pretty well, so I wanted to try it again, but in True Vault Hunter mode this time. I'll be using, well, exactly the same build and gear that I had from the last episode. But my goal is to start replacing my gear as quickly as possible, because all I remember from last run is that this gear absolutely sucks and I just barely managed to beat the game. In case you don't know, the rules of this run are pretty simple. I can only use gear that I scavenge from containers and stuff like that. No loot chests or porta potties, stuff like that generally drop guns, grenades, class mods, all of that type of gear, but other containers like lockers, toilets, the small, tiny chests, stuff like that, boxes, you get the point. On top of that, I won't be using gear from enemies, even though that would kind of fit a scavenger role. That would also make it way too easy because enemies can drop some pretty good gear. I want purely just container sources, and that's what makes this run so interesting, because 99% of what you get from containers is absolute garbage that you'd normally never use. So yeah, let's get into it. The super neat thing is, now that I'm in True Vault Hunter mode, I can actually start getting gear out of Claptrap's place. I'd have to do some more testing, but I feel like these can't drop anything until True Vault Hunter mode. Like, the start of normal mode shouldn't drop anything, I'm pretty sure. But I happened to get myself a brand new shield and pistol right at the very beginning. That's kind of perfect because now I can technically throw away all the other gear I had before. But I'll keep it just in case. We'll have to see how the enemies go. Since this is still the tutorial level, of course the enemies are going to be extremely easy. This pistol was an awesome find. Its damage is pretty decent, especially thanks to the Tor grip. On top of that, it's a TDR, so I can always utilize the max ammo reloads to do some crazy good damage. So that was an amazing find overall. And it's a perfect starter gun. In one of the bullymong piles, I happened to find a direct upgrade to my shield, which is pretty nice. And in case you're wondering, I do have a bunch of mods installed. The main one is Borderlands 2 Fix that changes and fixes a whole bunch of stuff, but I had the settings all changed so that it is just normal vanilla Borderlands 2. On top of that, it gives me the ability to skip cutscenes and dialogue, which is very nice. And the other mod you'll really notice is Python Part Picker, or something like that. It's extremely helpful because it adds a list of all the parts on your gear to the actual item card. I know some weapon parts, but my knowledge is pretty horrible with it most of the time, and plus some of you might be curious what I get. But yeah, Knuckle Dragger, as usual, very easy fight. I definitely should have used the TDR reload of this weapon a whole lot more, but its damage is decent enough. Right into Liarsburg is where things get quite interesting. I am being melted by marauders, because one of them naturally has a freaking slag SMG. That's just my luck, by the way. And this is where the TDR reloads really come in handy. Of course, everyone should know this, but in case you didn't, the more ammo left in a TDR gun when you reload it, the more damage it does. Incredibly useful, and it can make pretty terrible gear like this pistol actually super good sometimes, especially if you're playing like Axton that has all sorts of grenade damage buffs. But I don't usually use them that much because most other weapons are better. Either way, I'm forced to activate Gunzerking here because I absolutely need the damage and healing to deal with these marauders. My gear is certainly better than it was at the end of last episode, but still, it's absolute garbage. But hey, that's exactly what I signed up for in a run like this. I have to say though, the single craziest find in this place was a rocket launcher out of a bullymong pile. That's awesome. On top of it all, it's bandit, so it fires 3 rockets at once, so it's gonna do some crazy damage. This is gonna be amazing for getting second wins. In the first part of this run, I decided to go with Salvador's right tree because I absolutely need the healing and tankiness, but for this part I decided to go with his left tree. I wanted to avoid the middle since it's going to be a bit too powerful, and I'm going to be avoiding certain skills like Money Shot because that just breaks like every weapon that you use. Firing after reload is one of my favorite skills, and it pairs extremely well with, well, Salvador and all of the guns I happen to get, which is mostly pistols, honestly. Nothing too interesting has really happened. I'm kind of just going around Southern Shelf, killing a bunch of enemies and looting everything I can. Unfortunately, my luck is terrible and I just never find like any good gear. The only usable thing I found was a new shield. All of the stats are technically worse, but I don't lose a bunch of health from my old turtle shield anymore, which is very nice. I have to say, the only real downside about playing a run like this, where I have to go into true Vault Hunter mode, is that I have to farm for XP so that I can stay on level. That was one of the major issues in the normal mode Scavenger run, but it's going to be a major problem here as well. I just hate having to constantly do side missions and farm enemies. The rocket launcher I got earlier made quick work of Boom Boom, and I happened to get their grenade drop, which is pretty awesome. I didn't want to use this to kill them, but at the same time, I didn't want to risk a death either. This is just the fastest way to kill Boom Boom. Plus, you guys saw it, I got this from a Bullymong pile. It's perfectly usable gear. I'll use absolutely everything I can in my arsenal. A lot of the combat is pretty much the same as you've already seen, including me cycling between gun zerking so I can get regeneration and the full heal skill, which is pretty amazing. As you can see, I've been using the barrels to my advantage. Yeah, everything's been going relatively easy. I still haven't died yet, which is generally a good sign. The most interesting thing I've found in a while is actually a new gun. I mean, sure, it's the same level as my starter pistol, but it's a Torgue pistol. On top of just better damage in general, it gets a little bit of grenade splash, which is always nice for like tightly grouped enemies, and yeah, it's a major upgrade overall. I'll absolutely take it. As for Captain Flint, I quickly realized that neither of my pistols were going to be effective against him, so I'm gonna have to pull out the rocket launcher that I was using earlier. This was probably my best find, most of the run at least. Of course, it quickly falls off soon, but yeah, for Southern Shelf, this thing was an absolute beast. Even through Captain Flint's crazy damage resistance, it was able to shred him. And after that, I managed to find myself a new SMG and grenade. So, with this loadout, I've actually managed to completely change my setup from last time. Except for my class mod and relic, but those don't really do much. I mean, I guess the relic gives a tiny bit of health, but that's it. The class mod literally does nothing at this point. Besides Torgue pistols, I also really like when I can get Torgue assault rifles. I guess I just like Torgue guns in general, and it's got a matching grip, which makes it even better, especially for so early on. This is going to help me take care of a ton of the enemies here. On my way back to Sanctuary, I just had like the worst stroke of luck ever, and I just got melted by the bandits here. I don't even know what really happened. My brain just turned off, and I kind of missed everything. My rocket launcher wasn't reloaded, I somehow missed a rocket launcher shot, and I kind of just died. I think I could have reloaded the launcher before I died, but yeah, I guess that was just brain damage or something. On the bright side though, I got a brand new matching grip Jacob's pistol and a Tesla grenade, which is pretty awesome. The fuse time is garbage, but longbow and crazy good damage is hard to refuse. As you can see, I tried to make my way through Southpaw to get some more XP because I desperately need it. Unfortunately, I hit a major roadblock when dealing with Oni because, yeah, he's got this funny explosive resistance, and that's like most of my damage at this point. Of course, that's the primary issue with this run. I just don't have the damage to kill most enemies. I'm really glad this isn't Ultimate Vault Hunter mode because I have no clue what I'm going to do for that. Well, I'm going to need slag for sure. I actually have a couple slag sources in my bank. I decided to keep those just in case, but I wanted to try this with just normal gear for now. But yeah, that was certainly an experience. I honestly wish there was more interesting stuff to show, but this is like 80% of what the run actually is. Slowly grinding my way through enemies, searching every single container I can find to get either nothing or stuff that's somehow worse than what I already have. Very, very rarely will I actually find something that's half decent and usable. You guys want to know one of the best parts about Borderlands 2? The game is so entirely random. It makes no sense. It feels like every single playthrough you do, something is just going to curse you. For the longest time, I've had the curse of the fire barrels, where I would just die to fire barrels, because they're extremely stupid. But in this run, I call it Curse of the Rabid Enemies. I don't know what it is or why, but I swear I fought more rabid enemies in this playthrough than I ever have before. And this is exactly what started it. You can see the issue. Rabid enemies are the most aggressive, thus incredibly difficult to fight, especially when you don't have damage, like me. And of course, one of these guys is bad enough, but look at this. Not just one, not just two of these guys, but 3 rabid skags in one small area. I've never seen this before, but somehow this happened multiple times throughout this run. I don't have words. I don't know why this happens. It's just Borderlands 2. There's something going on in the code that just causes bizarre things like this to happen. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. And if you're counting at home, add 3 to the rabbit counter. Trust me, it's gonna go up fast. Look carefully and you'll see exactly what I mean. Like, look, I don't even know where that guy came from. He's obviously from the Skag area, of course, but like, he got glitched into the ground. You guys cannot tell me that this is a normal run, because of course it's not. I also got a new Vladov pistol with a Torg grip, so the damage is a bit better, but not too much else to note for now. One of the best things I found for a while now is actually this class mod. Yes, I've had the same crappy class mod I've had pretty much the entire previous run, and as you can see, it gives me like nothing. 60 shield is literally worthless, and the regeneration is also pretty useless. But ammo regeneration, now we're talking. I mean, sure, I could use anything else like health regeneration, but I'll take any upgrade I can get at this point. After a while of nothingness, I decided to make my way over to Frostburn Canyon. I had a feeling this place would be interesting because there are a bunch of spider ant areas that are covered with spider ant piles, which gives me a chance to get some decent loot. And I just happened to get one of the best drops in the entire run. That spider ant broke the pile, but it's still obviously a pile drop. This is a all Maliwan corrosive SMG. That's pretty awesome, I have to say. I believe Maliwan increases elemental damage because that's their whole thing, and elemental chance. So this thing is going to be awesome against most flesh enemies, but especially robots, which are coming up relatively soon. So overall, this was an awesome find. I'm very happy with it. It also slightly increases my damage in this level, which is nice. Another really good find is from this dumpster. It's a shotgun. Jacob's Barrel Hyperion is an interesting combo, but has incredibly good damage potential. Of course, though, it has low ammo, which means you have to reload constantly. Still, really good find. And this green bandit pistol. Of course, green rarities where you can start getting accessories, but with trash like this, you almost never get one. Or you get something like accuracy or mag size. Either way, this pistol combines a decent fire rate with decent damage and a massive ammo capacity, so this was a very helpful find as well. The rest of the level is slow, as you can all probably expect, and if you couldn't guess, the part with Lilith is actually stupidly easy because she just one-shots half the enemies for me. So yeah, that was relatively easy. And my beautiful new SMG makes dealing with the armored psychos extremely easy. That's another reason it was such a good find. These guys are normally a menace. As usual, I also went to clear the area behind Ellie's garage, and this place was filled with a ton of difficult enemies, which is actually quite rare, especially considering I managed to get a Black Queen spawn. I don't know what her actual spawn rate is. It could be 1 in 3 or 1 in 5, something like that. But the Nukem is a 1 in 10 drop, so naturally I didn't get it. I really thought I would have, considering I can't even use it this run, but the XP is worth it either way. I still can't believe just how much that SMG I got all the way back in Frostburn Canyon is really carrying me. I mean, it's still useful up to here and way later into Bloodshot Stronghold and everything like that. It's actually quite amazing. Just for a full Maliwan SMG. That's it. That's what's special about it. It's not even green rarity, so there's no accessory. That would make it even better. But yeah, amazing find. And this is what I use to help deal with the cars, because, well, corrosive against armor. There's also this building in the middle of the dust that has a bunch of containers, and oddly enough, a slot machine, just in the middle of nowhere, because Borderlands, I guess. But I happen to find myself a green Bandit SMG, which is very exciting because that's going to be super helpful for the Bloodshot Stronghold, since it's going to do crazy damage against flesh enemies. Unfortunately, I didn't get enough XP to use it right when I got to the stronghold, but definitely after killing Badma, I'll have enough XP. For Badma himself, I have a bunch of Tesla grenades that are easy enough to use. I decided to go with my corrosive SMG. In case you guys are wondering exactly why, this is because Maliwan weapons have grenade splash, so I can actually damage Badma through his shield on top of applying the corrosive dot for a crazy amount of damage on him. To make things even better, there is actually a slag barrel in the arena, allowing me to coat him in slag to deal even more damage. So I'd have to say this was a very good fight, especially considering my horrible gear. I would also say that these safes are valid loot sources for this run because they don't always have stuff like this inside of them. It's actually quite rare to get gear. I swear I always get money out of safes. And of course, it's gonna be garbage gear anyways, so why not? And I don't know how I've never really thought about it until this point, but isn't the slag damage relic just the most worthless thing in the game? Like seriously, who's actually using that thing? When do you ever need more slag damage? You don't use slag weapons for their damage, you use it for the debuff. Very curious why the developers added that in the first place. I guess it's not nearly as worthless as explosive damage resistance though. Actually, I'm not sure if it's with relics, but I know with shields, explosive resistant shields actually don't work because they protect against damage over time effects. Explosive cannot be a dot. So, fun fact if you didn't know that. This fire SMG is absolutely an insane find though. Both the damage and dot that it can do is just not shredding through the enemies, more like slowly melting them down. But hey, that is a lot better than any other weapon I have right now could do. To make things even better, I actually found the single best item in this entire run. Okay, well, rarest, I guess. Not best by any means. This is a magenta rarity, technically, which means it's E-Tech. It's pretty awesome. The parts are kind of garbage, and Maliwan grip is not the best. I mean, slightly better for elemental and everything, but hey, I'll take it over all the other garbage I've been getting this entire time. The damage of this thing is insane, especially against shielded targets, which is going to be pretty important, especially once we get into robot territory. But yeah, this is one of my favorite finds of this run. And with this SMG pistol combo, I'm pretty much unstoppable. The pistol deals with the shields, and plenty of damage to the health, and the SMG does the rest. I am very happy with this loadout. Of course, it's just going very slow, and I died to Mad Mike. Of course I did. He always spawns with the rocket launcher, so that's gonna be tough. But the pistol was definitely the most interesting part of the stronghold. Once we get near and into the Bloodshot ramparts, this is where I'm gonna swap to the corrosive SMG and keep the pistol. This combo is amazing at taking out robots. Not to mention that I get both dots for even crazier damage. It's going pretty good. Of course, the robots hit like an absolute truck, so I have to be careful about that, but I was able to manage for the most part. But now, time for the part that I'm always terrified about, the Warden. You see, this fight can go one of two ways. I kill him quickly and I win, or I don't kill him quick and I just lose, have to go to the gulag. This run was actually somewhere in the middle, which is kind of bizarre. The game decides to do this funny thing and spawned a freaking angelic guard in this fight, and a surveyor to make things worse. To add insult to injury, the angelic guard has 2 light-off sniper rifles, which is like the worst combination possible because of their insane damage output, and I died pretty fast, on top of the fact he was getting a freaking shield. This was all very concerning because, well, Great, the warden can keep spawning enemies and I have to deal with that angelic guard. That's a huge problem. I don't know if I'll be able to kill this boss fast enough. The solution for the angelic guard is actually the circle strat, where you just run around the enemy in melee range. Even though I didn't do that, that's what you definitely have to do in a situation like this. That corrosive SMG is still putting in work. This thing hard carried me for sure. I was hoping to destroy his shield with my pistol, but it wasn't doing quite enough. And then the warden decides to spawn yet another angelic guard. It's really funny every single time. I assure you guys, not annoying in the slightest. But thankfully my weapon combo does a really good amount of damage, and he only spawns some other basic loaders. Honestly, the biggest problem with the warden fight is really just his shield. Once you can get that shield down, you can kind of melt him, and more importantly, you can shoot his eye. Once you do that, you can interrupt some of the warden's constructs? Odd word. Anyways, it's awesome being able to actually interrupt that, because as you can see, he was trying to make another angelic guard. The exploders are easy enough, you just bait them. But yeah, that was certainly an experience to say the least. Especially because the drop barge was coming in right at the very end. So that was a close call. Thankfully, the fight is over and won once you kill the warden, because you get Roland and he helps out a ton with the rest of the enemies, including those 2 more angelic guards. That's what, 4 or 5 angelic guards that this boss spawned? I swear this never happened to me before. I've never gotten that many angelic guards. It kind of fits in with this run though, because this one was definitely cursed. After that, it's on to Tundra Express. This map is pretty awesome because it has a ton of lootable sources. All sorts of containers in the bandit camps, and of course, who knows how many Varkid piles around the map. Hopefully I'll be able to get some half-decent loot. Lighting the Varkids on fire is stupidly easy because of my new SMG, and from there I decide that I'm gonna farm a ton of the Varkids for pods so I can get a bunch of XP. I happen to get all sorts of just junk, obviously, including a new grenade and that slag pistol you saw me using. But here's the most insane find of the run, legitimately. On top of the freaking loot midget that I get out of a random container, look at that drop that just flew across the map. Are you kidding me? That's a freaking shredifier. I can't even believe it. I mean, the parts aren't perfect, but damage accessory is insane. Still, I really can't believe it because I've been looking for a shredifier in one of my other runs for the longest time. I just can't get it. I don't know why, but in a run where I don't want it and I can't use it, I just get a random shredifier. Don't worry, I'm not going to use it for the rest of the run. I just want to play with it for a tiny bit because this is one of my favorite weapons. It's just stupid fun. Fires really fast, chews through ammo. I have gotten it in one other playthrough and in a pre-sequel playthrough, but it's super rare, so I never really get to use it. By the way, that corrosive SMG is still putting in work against the buzzards. Quite ridiculous, I have to say. Granted, some slag may have been used to increase my damage, but you get the point. Also, because this run just keeps getting more and more cursed, I ran into the invincible fire barrel again. I know it only happens in this spot, and I'm pretty sure it's only the fire barrel that does it, but still, if you know my history with these things, you'll understand why this is just absolutely cursed. I kinda love it though, it is pretty funny. You guys should probably expect this by now, but the corrosive SMG is still wrecking face against the robots. This might actually be the best find of the entire run. I don't know if I'm gonna rank all of my finds, but this is at least number 2, if not number 1. As you can expect, that's also what I used to kill Wilhelm, besides some slag and a bunch of grenades, but the SMG definitely did the heavy lifting. I've also found that the E-Tech pistol is extremely effective against surveyors because it sticks a ton of projectiles to them, it annihilates their shield and then blows them up, so really good for them, on top of the homing projectiles. But Wilhelm's fight is just a ton of running around once you kill all the other enemies, so nothing really special, I have to say. If you guys haven't watched the first part of this, you absolutely should, because that's very interesting. But there's this room where you pick up the iridium from Roland, and there are 3 containers in there. You can only open them during this one tiny part of the game. So there's a neat little Borderlands fact. At this point, I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna edit in a rabbit counter to the video, because look at this. The fridge is always an absolute nightmare because rats are some of the most difficult enemies in the game, and they just happen to be over-leveled most of the time, at least right now. Underleveled, like I've said before, is one of the biggest problems of this run. At some point, I'm actually considering just letting myself farm like Badma or some other good XP source for a little bit. I normally wouldn't do that, but it would save me a lot of time instead of having to do all sorts of side missions instead. At least with a run like this, doing side missions is not that bad because I have to explore the entire map anyways. I might as well get like the hidden journals and stuff like that while I'm there. But yeah, the fridge wasn't anything crazy. My pistol and fire SMG carried me all the way through. I was definitely hoping to loot more of the fridge. Unfortunately, like, I don't know, 2/3 of this place is locked behind missions once you get back to Sanctuary, which really sucks. I would like to explore more of it right now. Yeah, I didn't come back because there's plenty of stuff in the Highlands to loot instead. You guys know what's worse than a rabid skag? A stalker. Stalkers are also insanely difficult, they're extremely aggressive, and have a shield you have to deal with first. They also tend to jump around a whole lot more, making them way harder to kill. You know the funniest part of all of this? I thought it was really just bad luck when I get a 6th rabid stalker, but this level is not finished with me. Like, this is insanity. I haven't gotten to the proper Highlands yet, this is just the outwash, and I have had to fight 7 rabid enemies this entire run. Like I've said, this has never happened to me before in any other run. I've never seen this many enemies. I don't know why stuff like this happens, it just does. You know what? Perfect example. I may be playing another Borderlands 2 run right now. Well, actually, I kind of have 2 going, one for stream, one that I just play for fun. But in my for fun run, when I was in Tundra Express in true Vault Hunter mode, I encountered like 7 juggernauts for some reason, when that has never happened to me before. So, yeah. Borderlands 2, interesting game. Right before the Thresher, you don't technically have to kill this constructor, but I wanted to anyways. You can actually just run away and it will despawn. I should have definitely done that because this was an absolute waste of my time for the tiny amount of experience I got. This constructor was also funny and decided to spawn 2 angelic guards. Of course. This constructor was stupidly difficult to kill because he was over-leveled, and constructors have grenade splash resistance, like an insane amount, so it's very hard to kill them with explosive and grenades, which unfortunately this gun counts as. You also can't slag them, which makes this problem even worse. For the gluttonous Thresher itself, well, look at that. He's 3 levels over me, and, you know, regenerates his shield like crazy on occasion. I knew this fight was going to be insanely difficult no matter what I tried. Thankfully, this is still true Vault Hunter mode, so I don't have to worry about anything like health regeneration, but slag is an absolute must to deal any damage to this guy. On top of that, he deals a ridiculous amount of damage, essentially two-shotting me if I'm not careful. As you can see by the death counter, I quickly realized that I can't fight him fairly by any means. I have to run away and kind of use the cheese spot if I want any chance of beating this guy. It's a bit of a shame, but absolutely necessary, so that I'm not here for like 10 hours. I don't really want to bore you guys with the beacon defense because this is exactly what it looks like. There's no way I'm actually defending that beacon normally. It absolutely died like 8 times or whatever it takes to go invincible. The robots are just way too tough and a bit over leveled. On top of that, all of my guns are horribly under leveled. I mean, this is legitimately the same SMG you guys have seen this entire time. So yeah, it took a while to say the least. And don't even get me started on the constructor that spawns here. Or 2 constructors, I guess. Because this is exactly how the fight looks. I'm just forced to sit back half the time while he either does his laser, or I'm waiting for Gunzerking to recharge. It was pretty horrible. After the normal Sanctuary shenanigans, I decided to make my way to the Caustic Caverns. I had a feeling there's going to be a ton of stuff to loot there. The best part is that right before I got to Caustic Caverns, you know, Sanctuary Hole, I got this awesome Torgue pistol. This is the best upgrade I've had in quite a while. I haven't really found anything in the first place, and and the few things I have found are, well, somehow worse than what I already have. That's the entire run summed up right there. But this was an amazing find because this pistol is quite powerful. I really like it. Again, Tor guns are some of my favorite. Naturally, there are a ridiculous amount of tough enemies inside of the Caustic Caverns. The Varkits are particularly annoying, especially if they can pod, but of course the pods are worth a bunch of XP if you can destroy them, so that's very nice. And the XP is definitely one of the main reasons I'm here. Again, I'm still slightly underleveled for the Highlands, and obviously very underleveled for the Preserve. Anyways, here's the best find in the Caustic Caverns, easily. A new class mod. Not just any class mod though, it's all about pistol damage, which is pretty awesome, I have to say. I deal a third more damage now, which is awesome. On top of that, it gives 4 points to my Incite skill, so whenever I get hit now, I can just run around the map like a speed demon. It is stupidly fun, I have to say. It really makes me wish I would have spec'd into the pistol damage skill. I think it's called, your Huckleberry or something like that. I decided to go for Divergent Likeness so that I could get damage and accuracy. I didn't think I'd be using pistols all that much, but yeah, I really should have gone for that instead. Another pretty cool thing I found way earlier on was this 12,000 capacity shield. That's just about double my old shield, so obviously it's a huge upgrade, especially for some of the enemies I'm about to face here. Go clear out the Minecraft secret. This is absolutely one of the best video game Easter eggs in existence. I mean, everyone loves Minecraft, but in Borderlands, how can you get better than that? And by the way, guys, this was all before Minecraft was like extremely popular that it is today. This is relatively early on in Minecraft history. The shield certainly helped against some enemies, but definitely not the fire thresher that decided to spawn. This guy will health gate you no matter what. I feel like that's in any mode. I swear, you can't tank these things at all. Thankfully, as you saw there, I found a nice little cheese spot, or I would have never been able to beat that guy. The parts on this launcher are literally all over the place. It's not that great, but it's still a rocket launcher at the end of the day, and I'll absolutely take it. At the beginning of this run, I said I wasn't going to farm levels, and I really didn't, but this is kind of farming because I have looted this area before. I just happened to destroy some of the piles again. This is the only time I did it, and I normally wouldn't take gear that I got from an already looted source. However, when you give me a pretty decent Torg assault rifle like this, yeah, I can't pass it up. I also found this abomination of a shotgun in some... I actually don't remember if I've opened this bin or not. I don't think I have because I was too busy actually defending the beacon, or killing robots more specifically. Yep, guys, this is exactly what it looks like. That is 2 more rabid stalkers. I can't believe it. I mean, while voicing over this video, now I can, considering how many more I'll get later on, but still, I've never had this many rabid enemies in a run. I cannot stress that enough. Why is it this one? I'm having a real sense of deja vu here. And yes, that is 2 more rabid stalkers, in case you were curious. Honestly, I think I'm done asking why. This is just a cursed run. Onto the Preserve. I accidentally paused at the exact right second, cause guess who? Another rabid stalker. Well, at least in the Preserve we have Mordecai for support, because you know for a fact I'm already going to encounter more of these guys. If I get one right at the beginning of the level, who knows how many I'm gonna find when we go through the place. Thankfully though, the Preserve does have a ton of loot sources, as in animal piles, literally everywhere. I guess it makes complete sense, but this shield is a great upgrade, especially when I'm gonna have to deal with corrosive enemies, and more importantly, Bloodwing. I also happened to get this corrosive transfusion grenade at some point, so I'm using that quite a bit here, both for the healing and of course loader damage. My main loadout for this place is the shotgun, which is dealing way more damage than I expected. I mean, Hyperion shotguns are easily my favorite. And I combine it with my sniper to get some really good damage with the slag. Cause yeah, I found that slag Molly sniper at some point earlier as well. It's only useful for slagging, but it has grenade splash, so that's nice too. I mean, it's a 56% slag chance. We all know what that means in reality, but that's a whole lot better than like an SMG or assault rifle, so I'll absolutely take it. Another one to the list. And here's another one of the best finds of this run. I know, it's not the best, and the parts are pretty garbage, I have to say, but a Vladof sniper is still awesome. Like I was saying earlier, I haven't found many other elements in this run. It's mostly slag I get from here on, which is pretty insane, I have to say. At some point, I also got this singularity grenade, which helped me out a ton in this level. Besides that, well, you should all go ahead and figure I happened to get not one, but two more rabid enemies. A stalker and a skag. The most annoying thing is that singularity grenades don't even work very well on them because, you know, they're super fast and aggressive. They get pulled back, sure, but then they just run at you again. As you guys can tell, I'm definitely getting quite sick of seeing rabid enemies constantly. You know, these super baddie loaders used to be like one of the most difficult enemies for me to beat, but after I learned you can literally just shoot their arms off, they're kind of just a joke at this point. But that is one of the best parts of Borderlands 2's design. You've got these insanely difficult enemies, but they are possible to counter if you know how to play right. That's just one of the things that makes it so good compared to the rest of the series. I guess that's why BL2 is such a good and enduring game. Alright, the part we're all actually here for, Bloodwing's fight. I had a feeling this was going to go way worse than it actually did. Conveniently, the fight was relatively easy actually. It was nice that the fight was pretty easy, and it's all thanks to this shotgun. Yeah, shotguns are so much fun in Borderlands because they are amazing at taking out flying enemies. In case you didn't know, unlike most games, Borderlands shotguns do not have bullet drop-off, so they deal the same damage the entire distance. That's why something like the conference call is so broken. Okay, well, there's other reasons the conference call is overpowered, especially with the B combo, but yeah, this thing was awesome for this fight. I also got to use the corrosive resistant shield I got at the beginning of level a tiny bit, so yeah, thankfully it wasn't too bad, and Salvador's red tree definitely helped a ton with survivability for that fight. In contrast to a relatively easy Bloodwing, 1000 Cuts was certainly interesting to say the least. I mean, just look how I started. First of all, Muscles spawned, which was absolutely unexpected. He's a very rare spawn, actually. It's a shame he doesn't have any dedicated drops, but then again, I guess he is rare. Anyways, he happened to take me down on top of the fire barrel that you probably saw. I have a feeling that's the reason I really died here. And considering I've never really fought Muscles before, I didn't realize exactly how difficult he was. But man, this dude is tough. So I guess I should keep that in mind next time I see him. Of course, my build isn't the best right now. I am relying a ton on gunzerking and slag for all of my damage. I really hope I can find some sort of new weapon soon. Thankfully, 1000 Cuts is filled with all sorts of loot containers, and I happen to find a better pistol. The damage is technically worse, but it has a way higher fire rate and accuracy, which is kind of important. Another thing I found funny about this area is that Mordecai is still bugged for some reason, because every single time I've been downed, he says his lines, which is super funny. I think this has happened maybe a couple of times before. I'm just not used to it. It's a pretty rare bug. But of course, this happens after Tundra Express or the Preserve. And besides the buzzards being an absolute menace the entire time, I also got a loot midget to join the fight, which is pretty funny. This level is pretty decent for them considering how many lootable containers, and it's just one of those levels. I think like Frostburn Canyon is one of the best for loot midgets. Honestly, there was another one I was thinking of. I can't remember. But yeah, Frostburn Canyon, 1000 Cuts, those are kind of your best shots for natural loot midget spawn. Overall, the rest of the level wasn't super interesting because I've been using the exact same guns I've had this whole time. The initiation was super rough, and when I died, I kind of just decided to camp it because I can. I really didn't feel like having to deal with the guys inside. And at some point, I happened to find a couple of white Torg pistols, so I've been dual wielding that for a while, using my class mod's pistol damage to my advantage. Again, I really should have invested in Salvador's pistol skill, considering how much I use pistols throughout this run, but I didn't really expect that. I guess I should have, considering they're like the most common thing from junk sources, but you know. Honestly, the rest of the level is actually easier than clearing 1000 cuts for the first time, because obviously you have Brick on your side, most of the robots are going to fight him instead, and they're robots, way easier to deal with than human enemies. Now that we've unlocked Brick, I decided to make a detour over to Lynchwood. This place is filled with extremely tough enemies and a bunch of side missions. The side missions and enemies are really good for XP, that's one of the reasons I'm here, and I'm pretty sure this is like one of the best level for the loot sources I'm looking for. There are a ton of lockers, dumpsters, all sorts of skag piles. Yeah, all sorts of good stuff I can loot here. Of course, am I gonna get anything good? That's hard to say, but we all know my luck. I guess we'll see. Of course, the main issue with Lynchwood is that the enemies here are like some of the most difficult in the entire game. I don't know if it's just scaling or if they have some sort of special buff that makes them tougher. I'm not sure, but it feels like Lynchwood is always insanely difficult. But I definitely need some sort of upgrade, whether it's more XP or gear, before I can continue the story. This sniper is pretty crappy, especially when you look at all of the parts to it, and I didn't use it for very long, but it was very fun because it's a dull sniper, so you can kind of farm headshots super easily with it, and the recoil is very manageable. It was very fun. I really want to use dull snipers more. It's just they're very rare actually, like Vladov snipers, and they're pretty bad most of the time. Now that I think about it, what legendary dull snipers are there? There aren't any uniques. Wait a minute. Well, I just looked it up, and the Pitchfork is the only legendary. I knew about that. And the Sloth, which is a reward from Rackaholics Anonymous. Funnily enough, I did that mission in this run. I kind of just forgot about it because I've literally never used that sniper. The only unique effect is that the bullets are slow. I guess that's why I never use dull snipers. They're very rare and forgettable. Kind of unfortunate. Next up, I happen to find myself a green Hyperion SMG. It has an accessory, which is rare. Unfortunately, it's melee prefix. Of course it is. I always get melee prefix for some reason, but the damage is really good, so I'll use it for a while. Naturally, I did complete all of the missions in this area, including the one where you kill Nisha, the sheriff. As you can probably guess though, I actually got smoked by her entire team the first time. I was hoping to not shoot the deputy, but I kind of had to because he was attacking me. It's weird because I think he's actually passive most of the time, and it seems that I can do some damage without that objective failing. Oh well. Once I got all of her minions down though, she was extremely easy. She did have a stupidly powerful shock pistol though. That's probably what melted me. Honestly, there was nothing interesting in Opportunity at all. I'm still stuck with the same weapons I've had for a while now. That Vladov sniper is still carrying me, both because of critical damage and slag. On top of the accuracy, which is actually really good in Opportunity because there are a lot of robot enemies here, so it's easy to snipe off their arms. When I'm not using the sniper, I switch over to my double towed pistol combo. This is because I get some more damage from matching gun type and my class mod. I am seriously curious how much more damage I could have done if I went for the pistol skill. I'm seriously regretting that now. As usual, Jack's buy double was extremely tough. I'm pretty sure slag is the only reason I managed to kill him relatively easy, but he does a ridiculous amount of damage, which is a slight problem. It's a big shame that the scavenger runs just seem to be like this, where I get like a little bit of gear that carries me forever and nothing else, because unfortunately this is pretty much what the entire climb to the bunker and the bunker itself looks like. I'm just swapping between pistols and slag for extra damage. It's unfortunately not very interesting. I haven't gotten anything else that's usable at this point. Like I've said before, this entire level is just a slow grind to the top. The constructor was especially annoying because all my other weapons just chew through ammo, and my pistols deal a tiny fraction of their normal damage because constructor grenade splash resistance, so it really sucked to say the least. And even most of the bunker wasn't that difficult. My damage is very pathetic, especially for where I am right now, but everything is manageable, especially thanks to slag and the enemies being robots, for the most part. The autocannons are a little tricky sometimes, however, they prefer to shoot at the buzzards, which makes them really easy to hit, especially in their critical spots, which is nice. Except for that one that's always at the back under the waterfall, that will always target you. It's super annoying to kill that one. Don't even get me started on once you get into like Ultimate Vault Hunter when they have regeneration and overpowered levels. It can almost be unkillable at points. I'm gonna save us both 20 minutes and show you guys this is exactly how the whole bunker fight went. I was just firing at it, dealing a tiny bit of damage when it came close, and more importantly, I had my action skill and ran to hide when it was flying around. I have really good survivability thanks to my red tree build, but I'm not invincible at all because that's my only healing source, of course. It's not like I get any moxie weapons or anything fancy in a run like this, no. Just get what I can loot out of containers and piles. So yeah, no good moxie gear. And of course, Angel Core was absolutely nothing special because nothing has changed. I don't think there are any lootable sources in this map. Oh, wait a minute. I just realized I'd normally go underneath the waterfall where that secret loot room is. I think there might be a couple of lockers in there. Huh, the one run I don't check that place, I might have actually gotten something. Guess we'll never know. Now that I'm in the Iridium Blight, there are plenty of sources to loot, and it's a pretty big map. The first thing I got was this awesome, almost 50,000 capacity shield. That's more than double what I currently have. Unfortunately, I need 2 levels before I can actually use it, which is extremely tricky considering all of the enemies here are insanely difficult. Just look at this group for example. We've got a Scavenger, my arch nemesis in this run, which is pretty funny considering this run, but man are they annoying, because like they're Marauders but infinitely worse. And a Goliath Blaster. The Goliath Blasters aren't even that bad because you just shoot off their helmet and they lose their rocket launchers. It's like the Nomads you gotta watch out for because those guys are deadly. But yeah, this guy isn't getting any easier to kill, trust me. I completely forgot to record the I will pay you part, but essentially if you decide to hit the button instead of jumping off, you don't get the Iridium, but you get 30,000 XP, which is pretty good. I think you only get like 9,000 normally, so that's absolutely worth it, especially considering I don't need Iridium. I'm playing Salvador, I regenerate all of my ammo. Before I go ahead and face the absolute nightmare that is the Sawtooth Cauldron, and likely have a repeat of last run where it was absolute hell to go through, I wanted to try something a little bit different in this run. I wanted to loot another place. This is the Valentine's Headhunter. I decided to do this because, well, it's around Valentine's. Not that I actually remember what day that is. Time has kind of lost all meaning on me. Anyways, I haven't played this one in years, and I kind of felt like it at this point. There's no way I'll be able to beat the boss at the end. I didn't even try, as a matter of fact, but I had a feeling that this level would have a ton of lootable sources for me, and thankfully it does. On top of that, it's a great source of XP with all the enemies in it. So it's a win-win-win, as Hammerlock would say. You guys get more content, I get more loot, I also get some XP. It's awesome. Early on, I happened to get a couple of new pistols. One way more powerful Torgue pistol, and a new green Hyperion pistol. These are both great damage dealers, and I am so happy to have found anything that can help me out at this point. The timing is especially convenient because I need to kill all of these guys, which I haven't forgotten about this DLC, but if you guys have, and the reason it's so good, I mean, the whole story of this place is just freaking hilarious. Maybe we're the bad guys for taking the baby and killing all the people that are trying to protect it. Hilarious. The Hyperion pistol I have is absolutely chewing through the enemies, which is very nice. On top of that, I get an ally for a tiny bit so he can soak up a lot of the fire and deal some back in return. Unfortunately, I don't get XP for his kills, which kind of sucks, but still very helpful. Besides getting a slightly less powerful Vladov pistol as my other main weapon, there's one thing I completely forgot about this place until now. Oh yeah, the Drunk Threshers. These guys are an absolute menace. I mean, aiming isn't actually that bad playing on PC. On console, it's a whole lot worse because you're also far away from the TV. But man, this drunk effect is absolutely horrible, especially considering it's infinitely worse than the one you can get from the grog nozzle. Needless to say, I'm glad I skipped over these guys completely by accident, because I now remember how horrible they are to fight. Not to mention the fact they are stupidly tanky for no reason. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the level up that I was hoping from back in the DLC, but I'm pretty much there. I just have to kill a bunch of enemies. Sawtooth Cauldron also has insanely difficult enemies I have to deal with, but has a relatively decent amount of loot sources. On top of that, there are a ton of elemental barrels scattered around this level, and I'm definitely using those to my advantage. The fire barrel giveth, and the fire barrel taketh away. Other perfect example of that. I was dead here for sure, but the fire barrel I shot happened to kill an enemy, which was awesome. From that, I actually managed to level up, which allows me to use a little bit of new gear. Most important of all, this shotgun that I found. It's nothing crazy, it's just like a bandit shotgun. Unfortunately, it's also got melee prefix. Classic, but it should be pretty helpful. For how cruel Sawtooth Cauldron generally is, I got some insanely good gear from this place. A way better pistol, and it's TDR, so there's always explosive reloads. That's a pretty good find. Of course, I got some other junk pistols. A loot midget marauder I found at some point. It looks like he killed the Goliath I sent after him. I mean, it makes sense, these dudes are stupidly tough. But I found another E-Tech weapon, which is pretty insane considering how rare these things are. Of course, though, it's slag, and the parts are absolute garbage. But oh well, I'll take it. I only used it for a tiny bit because I have to click manually, I can't just hold down fire when I'm gun zerking, but still it was a pretty neat find. This combination of guns is really good, especially for the ambush commanders I'm about to face. The E-Tech projectiles also have grenade splash, so it's amazing for getting slag on enemies that have shields. For example, ambush commanders. And yes, I am talking about physical shields, not health bar shields. You guys know what I meant. But yeah, this TDR gun is absolutely putting in work with the insane damage I can get out of it. So that was an awesome find. Unfortunately, I am not invincible with it, and that shows pretty quickly. Honestly, things were going perfectly fine with just that combination, but then the game gives me this. A better shield upgrade, alright, that's awesome, and a new pistol. Unfortunately, the parts are disgusting. I mean, Molly 1 grip on a Torgue pistol, but it's got a Vladoff barrel, which is my favorite because of higher fire rate, so I'll absolutely take it. Besides getting absolutely destroyed on my first attempt by mortar, there's nothing else super interesting here. My shotgun and sniper combination took care of the buzzards relatively easily, but the buzzards did happen to get me near the end, and when I respawned, I got a heavy nomad straight to the face, which was pretty terrifying, I have to say. Of course, their big weakness is literally melee range, so I always try to exploit that. Into the arid nexus, the first thing I encountered was a shock skag. These are one of my least favorite enemies because of that attack right there, the instant health gate laser beam. That's one of the dumbest attacks in the entire game. Thankfully though, the game quickly compensated me for that spawn and what's about to come with a crazy good rocket launcher. Well, it's a rocket launcher, so obviously it's decent. By crazy good, I just mean matching grip, because no accessory. So it could definitely be better, but I'm not complaining at all. That was an awesome drop. Add 2 to the rabbit counter, because guess what? This is a level that has skags. I also happened to find a brand new shield. It's kind of in between my current one and the next one I'm about to use. That one has over 40,000 capacity, but it unlocks at level 49. Still, it was incredibly helpful for what's about to come. You see, there's this little spot where you can hit a button to spawn a ton of super difficult Hyperion enemies. I only learned about this, it was actually a while ago now, but relatively recent compared to how long I've been playing this game. Anyways, I pulled off an insane performance in this fight, somehow managing to live despite how many crazy enemies got sent at me. RPG loaders, super constructors, super loaders, you get the point. All the most difficult enemies the game can throw at me. Besides that though, the rest of the level was relatively easy. There were a couple hiccups with some super difficult enemies, but nothing too horrible. A little bit later, I finally managed to get a new grenade. I've been using that same singularity for 7 levels now, which is pure insanity. The damage isn't great, but the knockback and the singularity effect from it were incredibly helpful for dealing with groups of enemies. And go figure, another rabid skag. Even though I got a cool, well, white rarity, corrosive SMG from TK Baja's house, I think we all know how Saturn went. I just don't have anywhere enough damage to kill him fast. So I'm gonna have to hide in the coward building. Thankfully, playing Salvador is very nice because I have ammo regeneration in my action skill, so I don't have to worry about running out. The rest of this level was also a massive struggle for every single reason, I guess. As has been the case this entire run, my weapons still aren't that great. I mean, they're all trash weapons for a reason. On top of that, these enemies are stupidly tanky and deal a ridiculous amount of damage. This constructor has been harassing me for quite a while now, and there's a good reason I was shooting him from far away. Getting too close is an easy way to die. And naturally, the inside of the building was filled with tough enemies, including RPG loaders and angelic guards. Some were also spawned, of course, by the constructor, but that's kind of just expected at this point. It's a bit of a shame that there wasn't anything too interesting that happened in Heroes Pass, or the door defense, that's why I just skipped it, because I've just been using the exact same weapons I've had this entire time. It's not like anything really changes. It's all the difficult enemies I've been fighting for a while now, and pretty much the same skills. I don't even have enough levels to get the skill at the bottom of my tree, which really sucks because that would be nice, but it probably wouldn't do much, I guess, because I don't deal a ton of damage. As you can probably guess, this entire place was just a slow journey. It gets a whole lot easier when you have Brick and Mordecai, but only for a tiny bit. And, in a rare chain of events, I actually ran past the constructor at the end because I didn't trigger it early on, which is nice, and I really didn't feel like fighting another one of the baddie constructors. Jack's fight in the end was pretty difficult, I have to say. His damage and his minions were a serious problem. On top of that, once you break his shield and he spawns that surveyor, that thing is incredibly hard to kill because of how it paths. I had a few close calls in this fight, but in the end, I did manage to beat him first try. And unfortunately, the warrior isn't interesting at all, cause like he can't really kill me. I have enough survivability where I can just tank most of his attacks, but as we all know from this entire run, my damage is just so terrible it takes me forever to kill him, even with slag. Overall, I'm not sure how long this run actually took. I never actually noted how long the first part of this run took. I really should have, now that I think about it. I'm guessing this is around like 16 to 18 hours of gameplay, which is a ton, I have to say, considering I can get like a normal run done in 7 to 10 hours. But of course, that's all sort of factors. I have to loot the entirety of every level, my damage is horrible, I die all the time. Yeah, it's a mess. But of course, I think the Scavenger run is extremely unique and very fun. It is a completely different way to play the game than normal. Of course, I will absolutely be doing an Ultimate Vault Hunter version of this at some point, because I'm very interested to see how that turns out. I will have to figure out XP farming at some point. Probably like Badma or something, but we'll see about that. Anyways, thank you all for watching. I always appreciate it. And a special thank you to all of my channel members. Thank you all very much. I'll hopefully see you guys in the next video. This is going to be Enzo from Lookintogaming, signing out.